Praise Jah.
So, as we said, once again, I want to welcome all as we just get started on this deep topic. To all the members of Zion, you know who you are. Stay strong. Continue to keep, the Most High's commandments and the testimony of the Messiah, and as well as the Messiah's commandments. Because life is tight right now, and a lot of us are probably ignoring our secret personal sins, and everybody's, looking at everyone else. But getting into the kingdom is not going to be as easy as people think it is. Although the Most High's mercy goes very far and it is great, and that's what we want, He
Hmm.
still won't, excuse those who are guilty.
That's right.
So we covered part one a couple of Sabbaths ago, the revelation of the True Scriptural Calendar series. That was part one of seven, just setting a foundation with calendar communications, principles, and foundations of the almanac. And then we had part two last week dealing with Jeroboam's calendar, the false Israelite calendars, the sin of Jeroboam. And I called it 2A, but I'm just going to leave it at 2 and move to 3. And, as we move through this series, hopefully it'll give a lot of understanding. Each part is going to be complementary, especially when we get to the last two parts of this series, 6 and 7. So in Jeroboam, we understood that when we set the foundation is that the Most High Scripture Almanac begins in February, and that's equivalent to the first month. As you see on the screen, February. January is the last month of the year. We don't deal with the Gregorian calendar, but for communication's sake, we have to use the Gregorian calendar. And it goes all the way through where the last month, as I said, is January. You can see that the equinoxes and the solstices are the middle of these scriptural seasons. They're not the beginning. When I say that the beginning, when you have an astronomical year, are those who either use a lunar cycle or the Enoch calendar or the Zadok calendar or Jubilee calendar, they're going to usually have the beginning of their spring season starting in March, which will also be the beginning of their year, whether it's the new moon nearest that spring equinox, or some just do it on a fixed day in March as well. We can see that it's truly the middle of Jah's scriptural seasons. And as we move along, when we're talking about this understanding of Jeroboam's calendar, you can see that September is equivalent to the Most High's 8th month, but in the world, it's their 7th lunar month or the 7th month from the spring equinox. And they're fooled to think that it's the 7th month, but it's truly the 8th, and they're keeping up with Jeroboam's calendar. And Jeroboam's calendar is the false Egyptian lunisolar equinox solstice calendar that the whole world is using today. I mean, looking at it another way, when we're looking at the true order of months from the first month, February, going down, again, the equinoxes and the solstices are the middle of the true scriptural seasons. And you can see here we are in the middle of autumn, mid-autumn. The equinox is just upon us. Yet people will say that's the beginning of autumn or the beginning of the 7th month, but it's truly the 8th month. And they're going to be keeping a false tabernacles, a false atonement, false, what is it called, Feast of Trumpets and Great Day. It's going to be completely off and out of whack, and is governed to the astronomical seasons. But again, we're not here to fight those brothers and sisters down, but to encourage them to do more research and follow the true scriptural almanac. As you see, again, this 8th month, equivalent to the autumn equinox, has people thinking it's the 7th month, September, but it's really the 7th Roman month. All right, take a little bit of a look. And some of these charts you might want to screenshot as well as we're moving through. Our pace will be a little bit swifter today, but at the same time, it'll be comprehensible. Now, when we look at those who are keeping the Zadokite calendar, the Zadok calendar, basically the Enoch calendar, Jubilee calendar, the Scene calendar, they're all kind of in the same area. And they have a fixed understanding of the almanac, just like how we do, but they also begin their first day of the year on the 4th day of the week, as it's equivalent to, they're going to say it's when the sun, moon, and stars began. Now, not everyone uses this understanding. I know that those from GOCC, don't use that understanding. They actually use the weekly cycle, and I commend them for that, even though they kind of begin it a little bit off near the wrong beginning of the year. But at least they're trying to do it on the weekly cycle and keep the weekly cycle fixed. But for the most part, most people in the world will say that the Feast of Trumpets will be, on this Wednesday coming here. And We know if you've learned anything from us in our, what we teach about our fixed almanac, the Most High seventh month always begins on the seventh day of the week. It's fixed forever. It's the only month that begins on the seventh day Sabbath. And as you can see, the beginning of the seventh month of the Zadok calendar, the Enoch calendar, would be beginning on a Wednesday. And notice that they also have the Day of Atonement, as you can see, right beside the 7-day Sabbath. So you have to prepare your fasting, and then right after that atonement, I mean, I don't know how they're going to maybe have their little meal in the nighttime, but they'll be coming off a fast going into the 7-day Sabbath. Whereas when it comes to the Most High's Almanac, the 7-day Sabbath, along with the other festivals, is not interrupted, or even when it comes to the Day of Atonement, it comes upon the second day of the week. We're going to discuss all of these things as we move through today, but I'm just kind of putting them out there. And for those who know Jazz Almanac, it'll just kind of keep you sharp in this understanding. This will also have the Feast of Tabernacles, they'll call Sukkot, and Sukkot is also the name of a pagan god too. I know it means tent and tabernacle, but there's a lot going on here when it comes to Jeroboam's calendar and this astronomical calendar that they're using. It starts on the Wednesday, the 8th day will be on a Wednesday. Again, it's fixed, but it's they have the first day is a holy day, then they have 1, 2, then you're gonna have the 7th-day Sabbath, and they're gonna have now 3 holy days. You have the first day's holy, you have the 7th-day Sabbath, and then you have the 8th day. But you're only commanded to have the first and the 8th day holy, although the 7th-day Sabbath will fall into play when it comes to the 7 days of the Feast of Tabernacles. But nonetheless, it's not going to be in the middle of this Tabernacle Festival week. So here we are. We're going to be dealing with the scriptural months from the Bible. And like I said, I know a lot of people want to look at lunar cycles and everything, and even solar cycles. But here's something else to consider: scriptures that are from the months that are from the scriptures that can be worked out using logics, common sense, and of course the scriptures to help guide us through, along with utilizing the Spirit of the Most High to ensure that these things are true. So we're going to be getting into these things. And again, Shabbat Shalom to all the brothers and sisters of the assembly tuning in. If you have any comments or questions regarding this topic, feel free to put it in and we'll try to answer them. This is a very thorough topic, and I hope we can get through it today. But this is why this series is 7 parts, because everything has to be broken down. So again, bless up to all. Shout out to joining us, Isaiah, Janessa, again, Carice, John Ray's Fire family, and Zariah, Sky, Carice, Janessa, Andrea, Monroe family, Auntie Alma, Greg, Mama Greg, Shakira, maybe Noah, and all the other brothers and sisters. Again, shalom to you. Bless up, Isaiah 53. All right, let's go. Just 12-month common year. So right off the bat, first we're going to say there's 12 months in the year. If you have a calendar that utilizes lunar months, you're going to have a 13-month, and a 13-month is completely unscriptural, nowhere to be found, and 12 months are reinforced greatly in the Holy Scriptures. Here are the basics of the 12 months of the year. From numerical value from 1 to 12, Abib, Ziph, Sivan, Judah, Dan, Elul, Ethanim, Bul, Kislu, Tebeth, Sabat, and Adar. Judah and Dan represent the 4th and 5th months, because these months, one of them is not in the scriptures, and one of them is Tammuz, and Tammuz is a pagan god. So the 4th son that was born to Israel was Judah, and the 5th was Dan, and we just plugged them in. But if you want to do numericals only, feel no way. You can see the equivalents here. Abib is to February. That's the beginning of spring. It has 28 days. And as you look at this chart, the 4th month, May, Judah, 31 days, autumn, 31 days, winter, 31 days in terms of the first month of those seasons. And all the months in a common year add up to 364. So if you have your calculator and you add up 21, 28 plus 31 and all of these, you'll get 364 in the common year. Now, there are 3 types of years in Jah's Almanac: the common year, the minor Sabbath year, and the major Sabbath year. But the minor Sabbath year and the major Sabbath year won't be spoken about today. They are an extra week is on it, so to speak, in the month of Adar. And we won't talk about it, but it will move as we move through. It'll be helpful. You'll get more information today that will be helpful to understanding the sabbatical years as well. So we're just going to focus on the common years, keeping it simple and guiding us through. When we look at another chart, a fantastic chart, I would encourage you to screenshot this, a very thorough chart. Again, covering the first month from February Bib, going all the way through at the top. This is the 364-day common year with the Dar, which is the last month of the year, which gets adjusted when we have sabbatical years. But you can see the numerical values. So the first month, Abib, has 28 days and begins on the first day of the week, which would be equivalent to Sunday, or really it's Saturday evening, but Sunday controls most of the 18 hours of that 24 period. And so for communication's sake, we utilize the Gregorian time, our names of the week. You can see the second month begins on the first day of the week is 31 days. The fourth is 30 days. Third month is 30 days, beginning on the fourth day of the week. Judah the fourth, beginning on the sixth day of the week, 31 days. And as you see, going through. Again, we'll cover all of these, but we're going to prove exactly why the Scriptural Almanac begins on the first day of the week, why each month begins on that day of the week and has that amount of days in it as well. And again, I want to emphasize, we're going into the Holy Scriptures. We ain't breaking out no lunar cycles and all of that, and talking about the dark moon versus the crescent and all of these other type of understandings when it comes to the lunar based calculations. None of those things are upon the Most High's almanac. They're only utilized for the agricultural seasons, which are very important for reaping and sowing and for the harvest seasons. And as I said, the agricultural seasons. Mm-hmm. So this chart is thorough in the sense that it's giving you pretty much the basic divisions of the year, as basic as they can be on one chart. And everything is color-coded. We have the equinoxes and the solstices being those midpoints, being March, June, September, and December. We have our 6-month hot, dry summer season, the amount of days in it, the first 3 months being summer or early summer, autumn being the latter summer ingathering. You have all the numericals here, and all of this is perfect, and it matches up from the beginning of time. And so as you get today's lesson and as we move through, you'll see that it'll be, this works out, synchronizes perfectly just with time itself. Brother Javed, do you want to add anything here?
Well, this is a great, beautiful chart. It's comprehensive. And I would encourage, as Brother Sean always said, to screenshot this chart so you have something to go back home and study and prove what we're saying. And you will see that these numbers cannot be gainsaid and can be proven through the Holy Scriptures.
That's right. So let's get into the revelation of the true scriptural months. As you know, that we teach greatly that the beginning of creation is the beginning of all things, right? The beginning of creation, that first day of creation is the first day of the weekly cycle, seasonal cycle, monthly cycle. And although people want to say it's the fourth day of creation, they're sadly mistaken that way. The Most High was counting days before the fourth day of creation came on, before even the creation of the sun, moon, and stars. And Jah made light on that first day of creation, which gives us our darkness cycle, our night and light cycles, without the operation of the sun again. And this is going to also be in the kingdom that the Most High, him and the sun will be our light. So as you can see here, we have the weekly cycle up top, going all the way across 7 days. Now in this chart here, again, you can screenshot it. I'm just going to be on here very briefly. You can see color-coded that the first month has 28 days. And that 28th day, it ends on the 7th-day Sabbath, which therefore has the second month, Ziph, the first day of Ziph, is going to begin on the first day of the week. And since there's 31 days in Ziph, you can see where it is, that means that the third month, Sivan, is going to begin on the fourth day of the week, and it has 30 days. Now, again, by me saying these things, I'm just saying it. So now we're going to go prove it in your Holy Scriptures. And again, this is a chart to let you know, this see how things work perfectly with the weekly cycle. As you know, the 14th at evening, which is the beginning of the 15th, is the Feast of Passover for 7 days going across. We have the first day holy, the 7th day is holy, and then the day after the 7th day of Passover is the waving of the sheaf, which begins the count to Pentecost. And this count here counts 7 Sabbaths going down until you get to the 11th. And then the day after that 7th Sabbath is the first day of the week, which is the 12th year, the Feast of First Fruits. So when you look at this chart, you can see if the numbers are in red, they're very important. They're either dealing with the beginning of the month, or dealing with the 7-day Sabbath, or the festival important dates as well. This 15th of the second month is the Sabbath, is the Passover of the second month, beginning on the first day of the week, the 15th, just like the Passover of the first month. So I say that to kind of give you that visual. And as we move through, you can see that the third month ends on the 5th day of the week. So that would mean that the fourth month would have to start on the 6th day of the week. And that's exactly what you see here. The fourth month, Judah, starting on the 6th day of the week. Now it ends in the yellow on the first day of the week, which makes the 5th month, Dan, start on the 2nd day of the week. It has 30 days and ends on the 3rd day of the week, which means that the 3rd, 4th, 5th month, is it 5th month? Or am I saying, Judah. 6th month, Elul, start on the 4th day of the week, and it has 31 days and ends on the 6th day of the week, as you can see here, which lets you know that the month following is the 7th month, and that's going to fall on the 7th-day Sabbath. As I said, it's the only month, the 7th month is the only month that begins on the 7th-day Sabbath. So as we take a look, we see again here, this 7th-day Sabbath is the first day of the 7th month, Ethanim. It has 31 days and ends on the 2nd day of the week. And then the 8th month, Bull, that we're in now, starts on the 3rd day of the week in the evening. It goes for 30 days and ends on the 4th day of the week. And then the 9th month, Kislev, starts on the 5th day of the week, and it has 31 days and ends on the 7th-day Sabbath as well, which would tell us that means that the 7th, 8th, 9th month, the 10th month after Kislev, which is Tibet, would have to start on the 1st day of the week. And this has 30 days, ends on the 2nd day of the week. The 11th month, Tibet, starts on the 3rd day of the week here in the yellow, has 31 days. And then the 12th month, Adar, begins on the 6th day of the week. And as we said, the year will always end on the 7th-day Sabbath. So seeing the numericals, the weekly cycle, you can see the structure, because when we go through all of these, this is 52 weeks. This is the first week right here, complete. And then when you count, you got 12 here, 12 Sabbaths going down. And then here you have 13 Sabbaths going down. And then here we have 14 Sabbaths going down. And then here we have 13 Sabbaths going down. 52 Sabbaths in the scriptural year, the scriptural common year. Again, starting on the first day of the week, ending on the 7th day of the week. All right, Brother Java, do you want to add anything here?
No, this is a great chart. Again, reminding the brothers and sisters to screenshot these things and study them, because this is a table of numbers of all the 12 months of the year, and you'll see clearly that there's a 7-day weekly cycle that's intact and that repeats itself continually. And you go see that these numbers that are plugged into this table, it's all based on a count. So when you start the beginning of the year on the right day, you will end the year on the right day. And it'll be easier for you to understand how we get the numbers of each month and when the first month begins on what day of the week.
Okay. I'm going to go to Shabbat Shalom, Lady G. Isaiah has a question. How did they determine Yahshua died at age 33 at 3 p.m.? All right. Well, the truth of the matter is, and I'm not going to get into it because it is an off topic, but I can say this. When the Messiah died, he was 33 years old. But when it says 3 p.m., it's really the 9th hour. So I know they're trying to give some 33 and try to show some pattern, but it was, the 9th hour, which is equivalent to 3 p.m. Now you'll see in the scriptures where he says, and when the 9th hour came, that's when he gave up the spirit, gave up the ghost, they would say, but gave up the last breath. So his last breath was at the 9th hour, and he was 33 years old when he passed away. All right, let's continue. So again, another way looking at this, you see how we have our 3 months. So again, when we saw those last charts, hopefully that helps you. You can understand when a month ends on, like again, a bib ends on the 7th day of the week, then that means the next month starts on the 1st day of the week. So on this chart, you have, again, from 1 to 12, you have the festivals, you have the weekly cycles set, you have the festivals highlighted in yellow. Anything in red is important, as you know, on this almanac. Here's the 7th month beginning on the 7th day of the week again. Notice no other month begins on the 7th day of the week, right? Look at month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6. Only month 7, month 8, month 9, month 10, 11, 12. Again, the only months that start on the 1st day of the week are month 1, month 2, and month 10. All right, let's continue. So again, the 1st day of the week is when the year always will begin. It'll always end on the Sabbath. And here we have the 7th month, or the second half of the year will always begin on the 7th day Sabbath. These are scriptural facts and understandings that when you know them, the calendar falls perfectly into place with all type of understanding. So what I want to prove now, I think it's probably one of the most important things of the almanac is the first month. And although it's probably the simplest to prove, it's very important because the first month only has 28 days. And although we're not going to talk about the 28-day year cycle, there is a 28-year cycle that is so important. The Gregorian calendar that you use that keeps all of our seasons intact utilizes this 28-year cycle. Now, I know the Gregorian calendar is a paganized calendar, but it's still used in the world for its accuracy of keeping the seasons in check. You see, if you use a lunar cycle calendar, or even if you don't, properly understand how intercalation might work, your seasons will go out of whack and wander. But the Gregorian calendar, with its 28-year cycle, and in particular 10,227 days, is an exact copy and counterfeit of the true scriptural calendar that has a 28-year cycle. The Most High's almanac has 20 years and also has 10,227 days. Now, I won't speak about that now, but please go on my channel and just type in 28-year cycle. And there's a couple of good videos on them, and they're not even that long. A lot of them I've shortened a couple of them. So what I'm saying in this understanding is that the month of Bib has 28 days only. So if your calendar that you follow, the Zadok, Jubilee, Essene, of course, the lunar cycles, and it has 29, 30, or 31-day months. I mean, I just put the other numbers in here just for the sake of filling in the boxes. But if you have more than 28 days in your first month, then I'm just letting you know that it's unscriptural. And right off the bat, it's unscriptural. And it's going to prove it very clearly, but this is the basis of the foundation. If you get this foundation messed up with the 28-day first month, then you'll never really be able to find all of the other great cycles of set feasts, and the 28-year cycle won't even work. And you'd have to do all kind of different things to try to keep your seasons, in alignment with the true months and the dates of the festivals if you don't use a 28-year cycle. And this is why you have some very odd intercalations, whereas the Most High's calendar is based off of sevens, and the 7 works out perfect when you're counting weeks and days. So there's, again, if you have an almanac, like the Enoch calendar is 30, 30, and 31 days. So their first month is always going to have 30 days. The beginning of their seasons that month will always have 30 days. And so they'll go 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31. It does equal 364 days, and that's true. And it doesn't use lunar cycles, and that's true too. But there's a mix-upness, as I've been telling you, whether it's the middle of the week and an understanding of this first month. And I mean, I might get to the other months, but this first month is so important that it's going to make things stand out to you. Now, so as we go through it, let's remember that the calendar begins from the creation of time. So saying the creation of time, it's so important that we set this 7-day weekly cycle foundation, that if you try to start on the 4th day, you're going to be messing up the understanding of the 7th-day Sabbath. If you're going to say that the 4th day begins the month, you're messing up the first scriptural month, Abib, that begins on the 1st day of creation, as long as the first week. So everything is in play when it comes to this weekly cycle. Brother Java, did you have anything you wanted to say about these two understandings before I move on?
No, let's continue. The emphasis right now is basically on the first month, and we have to make sure that we get it right and understand what day of the week that the month begins, and that the first month does indeed have 28 days, 4 complete weekly cycles. Perfect.
That's right. Yeah, Lady G, I hear what you're saying. It's really the devil that's doing these things. He's the one who gets into their mind because he hates the Most High's things. But yeah, I hear you. The nerve. The adversary has no shame, and as you know, he's wicked. So again, before I move on, most people begin their calendars from the fourth day of the week. The Zadok calendar does. Now I know that GOCC's calendar, like I said, they don't begin it. They keep the weekly cycle intact, and I respect that, just as we do too, because we know how to count to 7 and we know where to begin our count. If anybody has the beginning of the year not beginning on the first day of the weekly cycle and not having 28 days, it's unscriptural. And when I say that it's unscriptural, we're going to prove it from the Bible. And if it's in the Bible, it's like saying, if you know that the 7-day Sabbath is the 7th day of the week, and it says that in your scriptures, but they try to tell you the first day of the week is the Sabbath. Some people say the 8th day. I don't know why they're doing that, but the first day of the week is the Sabbath. Then, we know it's wrong because the scriptures identify the 7th day of creation as being the Sabbath, not no lunar Sabbaths or anything of that nature. And I know that people like the lunar Sabbath thing, and people are even talking to me on my comment section, and they can't get around it because they think, oh, the Gregorian calendar, this and that, but they're kind of confused.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on. Let's look at this very carefully. Again, the first day of creation would be the first day of the first month, the first week, the first season, and the first year. That has to be established. It began with the evening and the morning were the first day. That means that the evening and the morning were the second day, going on through. Now, we just knowing how to basically count the creation week, we can say, hey, that creation week, if you know that it has dates, Abib 1 through to Abib 7, the first Sabbath would be Abib 7. Does that make sense? Like, it should make sense. Because when people try to say that, the fourth day of the week is the beginning of the month and even the year, it's like, it doesn't make sense because we have the 7-day Sabbath being the first holy day of the year, and it's being counted from the first day of the year. So if you're going to have a lunar Sabbath, that means you'd be counting your 7-day Sabbath. You'd have to ignore the one that Jah rested on and say, well, this is number 1, 2, 3, 4. And then going into the next weekly cycle, your lunar Sabbath is going to fall on somewhere in the middle of the scriptural week. No way. And you notice here, we didn't put Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all the way through to Saturday, although we understand to communicate, but I have to do it this way because, like I said, I'm tired of people saying, oh, you're using the Gregorian calendar. I don't know why people say that, but I think they're just twisted up.
Mm-hmm.
This should be simple, and this is really how it is. I mean, I need you to think about it. It's so simple, family, that people can't see it. That's how simple it is, right?
It's true.
Simple, true. Technical, but it's so simple. And could you imagine that? Like I'm just telling you, most 98% of calendars begin from the fourth day of the week. So my emphasis here is strong because we're talking about something that we need to grasp in these latter times, and the Most High is helping us.
That's
so now,
right.
Brother, you want to say something to this too?
Yeah, part of the problem is that most churches or teachers neglect to teach their people of how the universe was created, and the importance of knowing the first 7 days of creation. And so therefore, when you read Genesis, you don't think of day 1 as being, well, that's the first month of the year. And that day 1 would have been the first day of the first month, and day 2 would be the second day of the first month, and so on. And so your mind is not trained to think that way when you read it. But now when you present it this way, it makes perfect sense, and it's the only way to see it once it's presented in this fashion.
That's right. Isaiah says it's overwhelming. Even Gregorian calendar is stopping at 28, 30, and 31 days. Why not 46 days? Seems there's something behind everything. Very complicated. That's right. And so the thing is, you got to think about this, family. You can't mess up the seasons, right? Especially the basics of the seasons. You can maybe make people start them differently, but we all know after a while, everybody's going to know, hey, summer, spring, summer, autumn, winter. So if you were to have 46-day months as a regular thing, and there was times in the history where the calendars, when they were shifting it, they had to do things like have a 46-day month, because one month would only have 12 days or something of that nature. Because the thing is, you can't mess up the months. And remember, they're messing up the Most High scriptural months. So we know he has 12 months. We know that it's basically with 7 times 52 is 364. So we have 364 to work with. And so we know that the months can only be 28, 30, or 31 days. However you want to move them and start them, that again, that's different. But it's good to know and stay in this area here again, what's going on. So let's move on. How do you know some? I agree. How do they know? Because they're copying the Most Highs. So we're going to have to prove it, because you see, even we're talking about them for the Gregorian calendar. When people are talking to me, they say, I'm making it up, or we're making it up, so to speak. And how do we know that February and this day of February is how do we know that? Where do we come to that understanding? So it is an important topic, and it's valid, right? And we're going to, again, try to share it with you today. So as we go through, remember the first month of Bib. So we don't know nothing about Gregorian calendar right now. Let's say we don't know that this is February 1st or March to 8th, 10th. We're just looking at a Bib, right? We do know it's February, but I just want you to think in a basic way, first of all. So obviously, what's going to come after that? Abib 8. It's going to be the second week. We're still in the first month. We're counting through. Notice here that Abib 14, which is a tie to the end of this day, they kill the Passover lamb, that it's on a 7-day Sabbath. I mean, rightly so. We're only counting. We're not making things up. This can't be, this part of the demonstration of this almanac can't be a man-made thing, because we're not looking at the sun, moon, and stars. And that's what people try to say. If you're looking at the sun, moon, and stars, if you're not using them, it's man-made. But here, it's scripturally, it's by the Most High. So we're not making up this weekly cycle. Again, it's there in your logics to count and in the scripture. So what would make that third week? The third week would begin with the 15th, going to the 21st. And then the fourth week would begin with the 22nd, going to the 28th. So now we teach that Abib, the first scripture month, has 28 days. And don't you notice it's kind of unique how the Gregorian calendar has February as being 28 days long as well? And of course, every fourth year, it's 29 days. But I mean, it's the second month of their scriptural year. It doesn't make no sense. Why didn't they make it the first month, or the last month?
Good point.
You're going to put it right in the middle, right after the first month, and make the second month 28 days long. And people are wondering, well, how does that work? And what does it mean? The word February means purification. Februarius means purification. And it's a time that the Romans and most people did spring cleaning. Now, I'm going to be saying Romans, I'm going to be saying Europeans and Israelites, because there was a time where everybody knew the seasons. You understand? But the complications and calculations of feast days and pagan holidays and the scriptural feasts, are all over the place. So we're just still staying here where we are. And so, again, I want you to see that 28 is week 4. We're still in month 1, season 1, and year 1. All right, we can move on, right, Brother Javin?
Yes, sir.
So again, we're not starting our count from day 4. That doesn't make any sense, especially how it's the middle of the scriptural week. Notice that? I always talk about the middle and how they switch things. So when you go to Leviticus chapter 23, there's some dates that are very clear and open, but then there's some dates that are hidden, but it's like it's hidden in plain sight, as you would say. It just takes deduction here. And when we're doing this, we're going to have to use the idea of deduction, like looking at something and saying, well, if it's 28 days and it could be 29 days or 30 days, how can we know it's 28 days? Well, we'd have to deduce that it can't be 30. And we would have to say it can't be 29. And we'd even have to say, well, it can't even be 27 or 26, 25. We have to do that. So that's by deduction, eliminating the erroneous things so that we can see something very plain and clear. And this is what you have to do sometimes when you're dealing with the scriptures, because the scriptures are silent in some areas of clarification. You don't hear about the 28-year cycle in the scriptures. You don't hear how many exact days are in the scriptures in terms of, Enoch and Jubilee. And that's good that they're there, but you don't have it in the scriptures anyways, from Genesis to Revelation, nor using the Apocrypha. But you have the wisdom of it with weekly cycles, and the weekly cycles are 7 days long. And then getting an idea about how, an average of a year is 52 weeks. Even in the Gregorian calendar, the lunar cycle, it doesn't matter what anybody uses, they're going to know 52 weeks times 7 is going to give us 364, which would be around the beginning of what you would say, or the length of what a year is. But that 365 and a quarter is very important. It throws things off. So what I'm saying is, in deduction, it doesn't talk about the first day of the month. It does speak about the 7th, 14th, 15th, 21st. It doesn't say 21st. It doesn't say 22nd, but it lets us know that they're all there. Let's see how we do this. So again, we're talking about creation. We're just using our common sense, right? Remember, everything began on the first day of the week. And we went to 7, week 1. 14th is week 2, beginning with third week with 15, 20, and 28, right? Simple, right? Then when we fill it in, before we start reading things, when we fill it in as well, you'll see that, Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, it has all the days, the evening and the morning with the first, second, right up to the 7-day Sabbath. That's the finish of the official weekly cycle. And then we know that after number 7 comes number 8. And then when we read Leviticus, we see that it talks about the 14th at evening is the Passover, and that the 15th is when you eat it. So we can see, hey, we can get these scriptures, put it on this day of the week, put it on the first day of the week as well, and give account. This festival is 7 days long. The first day is holy. That's what it says here in Leviticus 23. And the 7th day is holy. That's what it says there as well. So we know that that first day to 7th day is a weekly cycle. So we can count from 15 to 21. And then it's going to tell you that in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 11 through 16, right here, that the morrow after the Sabbath, the 7th day of Passover, is the waving of the sheaf, or the presenting of the sheaf to the Most High, the beginning of the barley harvest. It's the morrow after the Sabbath. A Sabbath is the 7th day of the week. The morrow, meaning the morning or the day after, would be the day later, which is the 22nd. So what I'm saying is that utilizing Genesis chapter 1 and an understanding, counting to 28, and if you want to count to 30, you can do that, but you still got these numericals that you can plug in with Leviticus chapter 23.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's break it down some more. We know that we have our first weekly cycle, we have the second weekly cycle, and the third weekly cycle. Leviticus chapter 23 we're reading from, brother. You can read here.
Verse 7. In the first day ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Jah 7 days. And the 7th day is a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
So be sure to try to, if you don't have the scriptures open, follow along, right? It's important to follow along Leviticus 23, because that really has everything. I can use Leviticus chapter 23 and we can map out, all of the festivals and where they're supposed to fall very clearly just from that one chapter. And this is going to help us as well. So we can see that the very first verse tells us that in the first day you shall have a holy convocation, referring to the first day of the week and referring to the first day of the feast of Passover. It's 7 days long, and then it's a holy convocation. So we have the 15th to the 21st. Now, brother, you can read continuing in verse 11 here.
Verse 11. And he shall wave the sheaf before Jah to be accepted for you. On the morrow or morning after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it.
Okay, so I really hope you have Leviticus chapter 23 open just to follow through. You don't have to follow through everything, but this is going to let you see that when you begin the book of Leviticus chapter 23, that chapter I should say, you're going to see that the first holy day you come on of the year is the 7th-day Sabbath. And this is why even up here when you're looking at this chart, Leviticus chapter 23 verses 2 and 3 talks about the first holy day of the year, the 7th-day Sabbath. And then when we go through the chapter, it talks about the 14th and the 15th. Very clearly, it numbers it and speaks it out. And then we have, again, verse 11 here, the waving of the sheaf. This is the morrow after the Sabbath, the morning after the 7 days of unleavened bread. The morning after the Sabbath is the first day of the week. So when we're looking at this chart right now, we're getting a scriptural understanding of the spring feasts in the month of Abib. And even though we haven't gotten to 28 and or anything of that nature yet, we can say that we're at day number 22, right? And we could, again, I want you to be able to see that. You got creation week, 7 days. You got your following week. The 14th at evening is going to be the beginning of the 15th, which is the first day of the week. And the Passover is patterned off of the creation week. Creation starts on the first day of the week. Passover starts on the first day of the week and ends on the 7th day of the week. The first day is holy. The 7th day is holy of this festival. Very important.
That's right.
I want you to see these patterns. So I'm going slow. Although I thought I was going to go fast and fly through, but I'm starting to see that the slower is better because, this is a very technical topic, yet it's simple. And this technicality needs to be, highlighted.
That's right. And it's critical to understand what we're showing you. All we're doing is using Genesis chapter 1 in conjunction with Leviticus chapter 23. And we're taking the numbers that Jah is giving us, and now we're putting these numbers on a table in a calendar format. And so you can see clearly how we're able to number the days beginning from the first day of the year. And using the 7-day weekly cycle, we're plugging in these numbers now that Jah is giving us and adding these numbers. So it makes it very clear what you're seeing on the screen before you are numbers taken from the scriptures. And all we're doing is now we're tabling these numbers that Jah is giving us, rather than just reading it and not trying to formulate these things in our mind, but we're recording these numbers down so you can see it in this fashion in a table format. And this is how the calendar is formed. And this is how we're showing you and teaching you how we're able to know the days of the week and how the first month of the year begins on the first day of the week. And we count the first 7 days and so forth. And using the scriptures that Jah has given us in Leviticus 23 of the feast days to plug in these numbers. And you can see here how everything works out perfectly.
That's right. Well said, brother. So with Jah's Almanac, again, remember, if you have yourself a copy or anything, every verse you see is going to talk about that day or date or whatever is important, if it's the season. And this is why, I always encourage people to get the Almanac, because when the day of the week of the year comes, you could just look at your Almanac and compare it. A lot of work has been done into this as, we continue to build. So let's move on. So, all right. So here we got everything. We had the first day of the week, 7th day of the week. We read about the 14th at evening, the 15th. It goes for 7 days. Then we have the waving of the sheaf the morrow after the Sabbath. So now we're just going to just say, hey, let's get in another week. We know that if we just count, obviously we're counting. So 28 is going to be the fourth week of the date of the fourth week of the first month, number 28. Now we got to say, well, how do you know there's not 29 days in it, 27 or 30 or 31? And we're going to go to the scripture now and try to get this, because I think these first 2-3 months here might just set you straight. And then you can even on your own be able to try to work out these things. So again, we're going to the 28th just by us counting and filling in the numbers. And now we're going to have to go do a little bit more work. So we have, again, this 28 month. I'm reporting there's no, in this month only, there's no 29, 30, 31, and so on. So let's look at the second month of Jah's Almanac. So when we're looking at here, first of all, we're teaching Abib has 28 days and ends on a Sabbath. Ziph, the second month, starts on the first day of the week. And Exodus 16 is the scriptural proof. All right. So let me see, before we got Brother John Dunn saying, when is first fruits? Well, if first fruits, you do mean by first fruits, the Feast of First Fruits, the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost, then that is in April after the count. But I noticed that some people call the waving of the sheaf first fruits because you're supposed to wave the first fruits of the crop. So I have heard people call the waving of the sheaf first fruits, and I don't think it should be called first fruits. It should be called the waving of the sheaf, even though you are waving the first fruits. But the real term for first fruits of the wheat harvest comes on that day of Pentecost, the 50th day. So, in other words, right, people will say this is the feast of first fruits, even though it's the waving of the sheaf because you're doing the first cutting, but it's not the feast of first fruits. All right. So I'll move on from there, and I'll add some more to this because we're going to get to the first fruits. So by us saying there's only 28 days, and we're going to have to prove it, obviously that's going to make by deduction that the next month, Ziph, the second month, would have to start on the second day of the week. And you're allowed to say, well, Brother Sean, why can't it start on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh day of the week? And then I'm going to say, well, let's go to the scriptures and see what we can get. And when we look at Exodus chapter 16, you'll see that pretty good information there to give us an understanding. Let's go. All right, so here's Ziph starting on the first day of the week, just showing you. And it has 31 days. What's important to know, as you can see, just like a bib, it's like it almost has the structure. The first 28 days are the same structure as a bib because, like a bib, Ziph starts on the first day of the week too. So you got the 7th, 14th, 21, and the 28th all falling just like a bib. However, though, Ziph has 31 days. Now we're going to have to also prove how we know that. But first, we're trying to stick with how Ziph is set up. Now, one thing about Ziph, when we go to Exodus chapter 16, you're going to see two things. It's going to be the beginning of the weekly cycle. And also remember that the Passover that we can read about of the second month, it's going to say the 14th at evening is the Passover of the second month, meaning on the 15th, you do the same thing like you do in a bib. Okay, so what we're going to show is that when the Most High was talking to the Israelites, he gave them some food in the nighttime, and in the morning he gave them manna. It started on the first day of the week. He gave double manna on the 6th day of the week, no manna, to let you know that this is the 7th day Sabbath. All right, let's move through scripture.
Exodus 16, verse 1. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month, after their departing out of the land of Egypt.
Okay, so what's happening is here it's like John, it's like you're having a chronicle, right? You're opening a book and it's like you're saying, hey, they came in on this month. Let's see what happened during this event. Because John is chronicling two things here: the introduction of the 7th day Sabbath, and as well, you're going to see as well the Passover of the second month is also kind of hidden in here, as well as a special feast that the Most High gave to the children of Israel. But it's on the 15th day of the second month. So that's our time period we want to make sure we're focused on. Let's continue.
And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, Would to Jah we had died by the hand of Jah in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Then Jah said unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not.
Okay, so again, this is where we're in. The 15th day. We're getting from like how it goes. The sun is setting. Nighttime is coming in. The people are murmuring and complaining as they're coming in here now, and they're getting ready to settle down. And the Most High tells that He's gonna give them the bread certain every day, whether they're gonna walk in His law or not. Now, Brother Ron on Truth Unedited, put out a video about the 7-day Sabbath. It's good to know that, of course, the devil is attacking this day. I like how he emphasized it. And it's very important, everything he said. And just adding to the understanding of how important the 7-day Sabbath is like how Brother Ron was saying, if this Sabbath is going to let Jah know if, you're able to walk in His law or not. the people in the world who fight against the Most High's law and the 7-day Sabbath, they, if they don't keep the 7-day Sabbath, for sure they're not keeping festivals, and then for sure they're not keeping the dietary law. They're not going to respect those things. You understand? Because the 7-day Sabbath is attached as a sign to us keeping and worshiping the true Most High, the true El, the true God who created the universe, and not the mimicry, pretend one to take away, the devil. So the Sabbath is important, right? And again, it's attached to his law. This is why you must keep it. And you must keep it properly too. Don't try to do what people are doing nowadays and keeping 12-hour Sabbaths and studying it at light. We don't teach that. We know we teach that way is wrong. And I would encourage you. And if you ever have any questions about it, or even you want to really debate with me in email kind of form or chat, not debate, but go back and forth. I'll give you those verses when you need it.
Right.
Before we
continue,
go ahead, yeah.
What we're reading here, brothers and sisters, John's giving us a date. He's giving us the 15th day of the second month. We don't know what day of the week this happens to fall on yet, but we're getting an idea as we're going through when Josh says he's going to rain a certain rate of bread every day. And so, as Sean is alluding to, we're going to be learning about how the 7-day Sabbath was been established with the children of Israel in this second month. And then we're going to be able to pinpoint, well, what day does the 15th day of the week fall on? And we're going to see clearly that it will fall on the first day of the week.
That's right. So here we are, as Brother Javid was giving us a great kind of almost like a segue into things. We have this 15th day, and we teach the days begin with the evening. So, the sun is setting and getting dark, and it's not fully dark, but evening is coming on, and you have your nighttime part, and then you wake up in the morning, you have your lighttime part, 24-hour days, right? So again, we're just looking at this date, this special time period. So let's look at this date, this 15th day of the month, of the second month, and try to see which day of the week it might be. Now, understanding already that I know that it is 28, and I don't mean I, meaning me personally, but we teach, we know it's 28 days long as we're moving forward. We're going to prove that the 15th has to be the first day of the week. And also, this is something, it's mid-spring. It's the Passover of the second month. It's when the Most High began to give the 7-day Sabbath. A lot's going on here. Believe it or not, it's a semi-special time, right? Very special that way. And as you're going to see, it's going to go and it's going to lead to the third month, Sivan. So again, as you look at here, 28, 31, and 30, keeping these things in mind. What you see in the green, so you see right here, we have the yellow, first day of the year. It's in yellow. We have the 7-day creation week, and then we have the Passover. Then we have the waving of the sheep, which begins the count to the Feast of First Fruits. So the green is that count. When it gets to the 28th year, that's the first Sabbath, or Sabbath 1. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I want to make sure that when we get there, it falls in. And then we're going to count these Sabbaths. All the green, you see how the 28th is underlined, all these are underlined, because that's the 7th Sabbath. 28, 7 right there. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Sabbaths. All the green is that count. This is the Passover of the second month, or when the Most High began to bring forth manna. And as a matter of fact, Brother Javed, this is super duper special. This is also the 15th is the day that the flood came on the earth. Mm-hmm.
Good reminder. Yeah,
I am telling you, it's amazing. That 15th, this is how important. That 15th, first day of the week, the Passover of the second month, the beginning of manna, also the day that the Most High brought the rains on the earth. He rained the waters down on the 15th, just the same way he rained manna down on the 15th. Oh yeah,
that's right. Good
How
point.
long did you manna for? How long was the manna for? 40 years?
For 40 years.
How long did it rain for?
It rained for 40 days.
What?
40 nights.
Are you trying to make connections here, Brother Sean and Brother Javid? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Are you just making things up? It's just completely so unbelievable that this is in our Holy Bible, and you have people who say that they worship the Most High, but they love the sun, moon, and stars. They're dismayed at the signs of the lunar cycles and the equinoxes and heaven, and we're not supposed to be like them. So,
That's right.
This is how things go. But let's move on. This is a beautiful understanding, I'm telling you. All right, let's continue.
Exodus 16, verse 5. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moses and Aaron said unto the children of Israel, At even, then ye shall know that Jah hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning, then ye shall see the glory of Jah, for that he heareth your murmurings against Jah. And what are we that you murmur against us? And Moses said, This shall be when Jah shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full. For that Jah heareth your murmurings which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings not against us, but against Jah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we see the 6th day, they're going to get twice as much. Notice he says evening, the 15th at evening, you're getting some flesh. And then the 15th in the morning, they're going to get the manna. They're going to see Jah's glory, right? Look at that. You got your 24-hour period, the evening and the morning, the first day, even the first day of the week. But this is great. So we're going to have flesh to eat in the evening, in the morning, bread to the full. All right. So now we go back to our chart of the 15th day. This is the 15th day. And we're going to see that he's going to give them quail sometime in the nighttime period here. When it's dark, when it says that time came. And then in the morning, they're going to have manna. What? That's the first day right there of the week, and the 15th day as well. Let's continue reading.
Verse 9. And Moses spake unto Aaron, Say unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, Come near before Jah, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Jah appeared in the cloud. And Jah spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, At even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am Jah your El.
All right. There's a reiteration of what we said. We said earlier, evening and morning, 24-hour period, right? We're on the 15th. So let's take a look. So we got our 15th day of the second month, because that's what it said it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means the day after that would be the 16th, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. See how we're utilizing our counting method again?
This
is also, he says he's going to give them flesh, quails in the evening, and he's going to give them the bread to the full in the morning. So we have the evening starting off the 15th. We don't see that he was giving it to the flesh every night. So we know that the next night was just evening. Then you got your manna, evening, manna rep, evening, manna. You have all of these things. And again, it says there, Brother David, verse 8.
And Moses said, This shall be when Jah shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full.
So what's key here, family, again, is recognizing that this must be the first day of the week. And why? Well, if Jah is counting, we know that he says he's going to count for 6 days. And on the 6th day, he's going to have double. And then the 7th day, there's going to be none. So he's pointing out clearly the weekly cycle.
That's
and
right.
This is how the Most High let the children of Israel know when the 7-day Sabbath was. They would know for sure if they got double, that was the 6th day of the week. They know if they never got none, it would be the Sabbath. It's a very clear sign here of the weekly cycle. And this is not what they knew in the wandering in the wilderness. So now if you have your days beginning differently and having different types of understanding of the Sabbath, because I know a lot of people like to use Exodus 16 as that chapter to say, hey, tomorrow's the Sabbath, and they just say it's 12 hours long. But we see 24-hour periods are coming and going very clearly.
That's right. You can see that Jah was teaching them to number days from that time when they entered into the land on that 15th day of the second month.
Mm-hmm. Lady G says, yeah, they said autumn starts next week. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, from time, you've been seeing the cool weather, the wind, the leaves dropping off from time. This is how it is. But believe it or not, though, it's very calculated what they do. And because it's the middle, it's going to be hard for people to see these things. You would only be able to see these things if you were open, you say, hey, you got to start looking in August for fall. But you're not even looking in August for fall because your mind's already, it's summertime. And so unless you know God's almanac, we're going to be blinded to things because you need somebody to say, hey, look at the signs.
That's
Because
right.
Satan has said, here's a sign right here, the equinox. There it is. It's so clearly, and everybody follows that information and that knowledge. But again, it's erroneous. Continuing.
Verse 13. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay round about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, It is manna. For they wist not, or they knew not what it was. And Moses said unto them, This is the bread which Jah hath given you to eat.
All right. So the evening, the quails came up. In the morning, the dew lay round about. And when the dew was, by the sun kind of, evaporated, there was your manna. So again, we have the quails, manna fell, and then the manna is reaped. Right. So manna is falling. Here's what I want to say. Notice I put the manna fell. The manna is falling before sunrise. That's right. Right. Because the dew comes before sunrise, and the dew is going to dissipate when the sun rises. And you're going to even see that the manna basically does fall near the end of the night. So it's ready for them right in the morning as the sun rises up. We'll get to that, but let's put these things in the understanding here. So you don't have to read it again, brother. This is just a verse confirming the evening. You have flesh, the morning, manna's reaped. You do this, you do this, you do this. And then on the Friday morning, you're going to double manna falls and double manna is reaped in that morning, right? No manna on the 7-day Sabbath. So none is falling in the nighttime part and none is going to be there in the daylight part. Look at Numbers 11 now, just to let you know about this manna nighttime thing.
Numbers 11, verse 9. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it.
You see what I'm saying? So the dew's dropping down first in the nighttime, and then the manna is also falling on it as well before the sun rises. That's right, in the nighttime.
That's right.
Just little pieces of small information, but this is reading with a slowed down, more intensified reading to put this puzzle together. Like I said.
That's right.
All right.
Line upon line.
So now we're getting a good understanding. The 15th. It'd have to be the first day of the week for it to happen this way. But let's even get some more understanding. So we know from what we were going through, we know that the bib, as we're teaching, starts on the first day of the week. And we said the 28th and taught the 28th is the 7th-day Sabbath. In order for the 15th to be the first day of the week and for the 7th-day Sabbath to fall on the 28th of Abib to fall on the 7th-day Sabbath, it has to only be this way. The 15th couldn't be on the second day of the week, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th. It have to be on the first day of the week. And this is why we know that, on the 15th of the second month after departing out of the land of Egypt, this is when he gave them in the nighttime, and in the daytime he gave them the manna. And he's doing this now. The people shall go out and gather at a certain rate every day. So they go out day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have a date. Since we have the 15th, and we know that's when it started, we have the date now. The 6th day of the week is the 20th. And then obviously that's going to make the day after the 20th, the 21st. So we're just plotting and plugging in these numbers and dates on the day of the week, right? Because it says, God's giving you the Sabbath. Therefore, he's giving you 6 days, the bread of 2 days. So here we get the bread of 2 days. And on the 7th-day Sabbath, there's none. So we know that the 15th has to be on the first day of the week. This, just due to the fact that 7 days later, there's no manna. But again, this is where he's given the double. So now all we got to do is you have 15 here. Well, what is this going to make over here? What date are you going to put right here? What should you put right here, Brother Javid? I'll say to you for the people then.
Yeah, well, the day before would be the 14th day.
Right? And the day before that would be the 13th, right?
13th, yeah. So you're counting backwards now.
So we have the 15th. Now the day 15th we know is the first day of the week because the 7th day of the week is the 21st, and the 6th day of the week is the 20th because we got double manna. He began giving manna. So it's perfect here. The weekly cycle is again established from the 15th to the 21st. The day before is 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Then what would be before that? We're going to come back to now 7.
7. Mm-hmm.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now we know for a scriptural, biblical, praise the Most High Jah and his son Jehoshua fact
Praise
that
God.
Ziph the second month Ziph has to begin on the first day of the week. And if the 28th day, if a bib was 30 days, let's say a bib was 29 or 30 days. Well, here we have 28. And then here we have 28. And that means the day after would be 29. And then or you would have 30. And then you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now you'd have the 15th being on the third day of the week. And if you're to count, it's not, you can't have it. It's the 17th. You can't have it anywhere else. Right. So this is what I'm trying to show you. There's no other adjustments. The deduction is quite crucial right here.
Mm-hmm.
We know we get into the 21st, and that means for sure, no matter what, unless you would say a bib had 35 days, and it doesn't work that way because you have to keep the count of the first fruits or Pentecost proper. You can't have it being 35. It messes up everything else. So it's 28, and the Romans knew this. This is why their February 1st month has 28 days, because the 28-year cycle has to be based upon 1 month, the beginning month, having 28 days. Otherwise, it would all fall apart.
That's right.
It's like not having a good cornerstone, and you put something weak there and you try to build upon it. It can't hold. You need to have the first month being 28 days long, based upon the 7th-day weekly cycle. 7 times 4 is 28, and it gives you now your perfect 28-year cycle.
That's right.
So look at that. We know now for sure by the Bible that the second month, if you're going by the Bible only, the second month should start on the first day of the week. I'm going to give a minute here for us to settle down for a second and, ask a question, give a comment, give me, I get it, I see, I don't see it. I want to hear something from a few people. If it makes sense, anything, just type in something while I take a little bit of a quick break here in the chat. And I'll give you a second here because I really think it's very important to catch this part here. If you can see it, please give me a little feedback just so I know you're following along.
Yes.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it should be very clear that all we're doing is numbering days and taking the numbers that Jah's given us in the scripture as anchors and plugging them into a table. And this is how we're able to determine the months of the year starting from the first month. And now we're proving that the second month has to start on the first day of the week, because the 15th day of the second month has to be on the first day of the week also. And that means that the first month can only have 28 days, which is what we're showing you here.
Mm-hmm. Hey, bless up, Sister Andrea. Thanks. Yeah, man, makes sense. Hope it does. Right.
Yeah,
I'm going to move through. Thanks again, Andrea.
Right.
As you, again, looking at this chart now, so we have the 15th to the 21st, but now all we got to do now is start to fill in, after 21 now is going to be 22, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to count 22, 23, 24, and then we're going to have 28. And now we're going to have to prove, because I said that, or we teach that Ziph, the second month, has 31 days, right? And you might ask yourself, well, why can't it be 28? Some people believe that there's 13 months in the scriptural year, and because 13 times 28 does give you 364, they're like, oh, there it is. But that's really just the lunar cycle operating within Jah's a 364-day year. You understand? There's no such
Yeah.
thing as 13 months. You can't have 13 months. It can only be 12. But the agricultural cycle, the moon, has 13 lunar cycles in a given year. And it's not perfect to like starting on the first day of Jazz week or anything like that, but because it wanders a lot. But there would be, in terms of understanding the 28-day lunar cycle, not the one that deals with 29 and 30, but it's called a sidereal lunar cycle of 28 days. Like how a woman's menstrual cycle is approximately 28 days, sometimes perfectly 28 days. It's also associated with the moon with its 28 sidereal cycle as well. Not that lunar cycle of dark moon to the crescent going to the full and down. That is a lunar cycle, but it's based upon the lunar phase cycle rather than the lunar month 28-day cycle. And that's a whole little thing, but it's no big deal because it's still not a part of the scriptural months. But 28 times 13 does give you 364.
True.
Yeah, first 2 months on point so far. All right. So the moon is not reliable for any festival keeping. It's greatly reliable for your agricultural seasons. So you're going to get the new moon is going to come next week sometime, just right around the spring equinox. And then you're going to see 2 weeks after that is going to be the full moon. And well, the moon's already been going in its harvest season already, but then you're going to get like what you call the super full harvest moon. And that's going to be very, very bright. And for 3 days, you're going to see like a bright, big moon rise. And that's letting you know that this is the time that you're in near the end of the harvest season. Not the beginning of it, near the end of it, where everything is being reaped. Yet, still a lot to understand. All right, let's continue. Now, remember, I said the Passover in the second month occurs like the first day of the week as well, just like in Abib, scripture.
Numbers 9, verse 10. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto Jah. The 14th day of the second month at even they shall keep it, and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor break any bone of it. According to all the ordinances of the Passover shall they keep it. Leviticus 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is Jah's Passover.
Okay. So again, I just putting out these verses. You can see that the 14th, Leviticus 23, the first month at evening is Jah's Passover, going into the 15th. And then you can see also the Passover of the second month, the 14th day of the second month at evening, going into the 15th. And again, this is how you get to see this perfection, looking at it from here. The 14th at evening is the sacrifice of the Passover. You cook it and you eat it, and you keep the first day holy on the 15th. You go do your 7 days, then you got the waving of the sheaf. Well, now when we look at Ziph, this is why the Passover can be kept in the second month as well if you missed the first one, because these 2 months are identical in the beginning formation of their almanac, seeing that they both begin on the first day of the week, and that the third week is, a special time. The third week begins with the Passover. The third week of Ziph begins with the Passover of the second month.
That's
exactly
right.
Identical. 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 15 through to 21. Now, when you're doing the Passover the second month, you can't count the waving of the sheaf from that time. That's just for those who couldn't, keep that Passover the second month. But like I said, there's so many beautiful things that are happening at this time. The flood is happening at this time. We've seen this is when the Most High began to give them the manna, right? All of that is right here. So when you look at this understanding, it's quite unique. But now we're going to have to see, like, how do we know the 29, 30, and 31 days? How do we know there's a lot more to understand? And remember, when it comes to calendars, anybody can say anything and say, hey, how do you know that day is that day? And how do you know this is day is that day? But what we're doing is we're setting the foundation from the beginning, and not using any Gregorian calendar for this, are we? We're not using any lunar calendar for this. We're not talking about the book of Enoch and the book of Jasher or the book of Jubilee or any of those things right now at all. Again, I want you to appreciate the simplicity of coming from the scriptures, because This is where my faith is. My faith is in Jah's word, in Jah and in his word, right? And I don't have no faith in the book of Enoch, although they quote some good things, and the book of Jubilee. I find that those people who deal with the book of Enoch and Jubilee, they rely solely on those books, to try to
True.
dictate when the true seasons and stuff are. And it goes against what we're learning from the Holy Scriptures. Don't get me wrong. The quote and understanding of 364 days in both books, the book of Enoch and in the book of Jubilee, and how the Jubilee talks about, those who want to follow the lunar cycle are going to be 10 days short because the lunar year is 354 days, whereas the scriptural year is 364 days. All of that it speaks in there, and I think it's in Jubilee chapter 6. That's good information, but there's a lot of other things that are off. You understand? They teach you that you cannot fast on the 7-day Sabbath, and that doesn't really make no sense. What I would say, well, why can't you? What about the people who fasted for 7 days, 14 days, 40 days? The Messiah fasted for 40 days, Elijah, Moses, right? So there's definitely 7-day Sabbaths passing through that. So, when I use those books, a lot of people get on me because I don't word verbatim try to bring everything in from the book of Enoch and Jubilee. But when we knew Jah's Almanac, and me, I showed you, the book, how year 2000, we published our first book, and I was working on it 4 years before that, and David had it 10 years before that. And so what I'm trying to say, we've seen this, all of the calculations and understanding of what's going on. And again, you find everything is perfect. It might take you a long time to understand certain things, but if you trust Jah's word and that he would have his almanac in the scriptures, that's what it is. And we believe that. And this is why these things are coming to fruition.
That's right. And this is a great chart to see the first 2 months side by side, to see that the first 28 days are identical to each other, and that the Feast of Passover is the only feast where you'd be allowed to keep it in another month because you weren't able to keep it in the first month. And the only reason why you're able to keep it in the second month is because the formulation of that second month is identical to how the first month is. And this is why you can keep the Passover in the second month according to all the ordinances of the Passover that should have been kept in the first month.
Yes, that's right, brother. Sister Andrea says the moon is not to be used to determine months. The moon has its own cycle, which has nothing to do with the months of the year. Exactly right. And I do know it says in your Bible, new moon, but it should just say new month, independent of the lunar cycle. All right, so let's continue. We're looking at the second month, Ziph. Right? We teach it's equivalent to March. This is mid-spring month, right? The middle of spring, because there's 31 days. 15 and 16 would be the middle of this 31-day period. And because it's the second month, it is the middle month out of the 3. We can see that mid-spring is around here. And yes, their spring equinox will occur throughout the years around this time period. But what we want to start getting into is this counting of Sabbaths, right? We see that day 14 I have here, day 21. This count here is the 7th, counting the 7 Sabbaths. And remember, we're counting these Sabbaths from here. So we're going to be going from the waving of the sheaf. This is one Sabbath to the 28th. This is another to the 7th. This is the 3rd one. This is the 4th one. And this is the 5th one in the month. Then obviously the 6th month is going to be right here, 7 days later, but the month ends at 31. So we see again, the 2nd Sabbath, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Understanding this Sabbath count is very important. All right, so let's look at this count. We'll look at the 3rd month. So remember, we're teaching that Abib's 28 days long. The Ziph starts on the first day of the week, and it has 31 days. Could it have 30 days? We're going to see. All right. So what you see is the first 3 months of Jah's Almanac. Now, underneath it in the black and white is the what if, or why can it be? Let's say it doesn't have this much days or that much days. And what I mean by that is, okay, we're going to say 28 is that's standard we set. But you notice up here it says there's 31 days. But down here on the what if, why can't it be 30 days? Yeah, you could get into 29 and all of that. But really, when you deal with 29, once you start getting into 29 days, family, you're dealing with a lunar cycle. right? 29 and 30 days. And this is why the 29 thing doesn't operate within the lunar cycle. You have your 128 day, then you have 31 and 30. If you have 29, a 29 day month, then you're dealing with the lunar cycle, and it's not going to be equaling 364. Remember, everything still has to have 52 weeks of 7 days, starting on the first day of the week, ending on the last day of the week. Having all of these things, they all have to be compact. So when we're teaching you this, don't forget those things, because you might say, well, this could be this and that. But remember, there has to be 364 days in a year. And so knowing the bigger count is going to help solidify you. Because yes, as Isaiah 53 said, there is like a lot to understand. This is why we're taking this time. But if you get this understanding and the basic understanding of how we're utilizing it, it's going to help you. And also pray and study. So looking at here again, let's say we have 31, and we're going to show that there's 30 days in the month, the third month. So 31 in the second month, 30 days in the third month. But you might say, well, what if there was only 30 days? Well, if there was only 30 days in Ziph, which it could work, let's say you'd have, it goes to 30. We know that it starts on the first day of the week. And that means this Tuesday here, the day after 30, would be day 1, right? So you'd have, there it is right there, you'd have day 1. And you'd be going all the way through, and it had 31 days. But here's something I want you to look at. It's very important to catch. The date of the Feast of First Fruits, Pentecost, Feast of Weeks is not in the scripture. In terms of, it doesn't say like how it does with the Passover on the 14th and the 15th of, and then the first day of, and then the 10th day of the 7th month, and then the 16th day of the 7th month, and on the 23rd. It doesn't say that when it comes to the Feast of Pentecost. You don't get no day or date.
True.
And this is why some people erroneously think that, well, the Feast of Pentecost is not supposed to be a fixed scriptural date, and that's why it's not spoken of, and it could be anything. But no, it's not like that. You're taught about what this date is, but you're supposed to utilize it by the count. And it seems like the Most High was doing something here to only make certain people be able to recognize this count, because a lot of people know about the count of Pentecost, but many people do it erroneously. But if you follow Leviticus 23 carefully, it helps to paint the picture. All right. So look at here now. If we were to say that this month, if we say, when we do say that the second month has 31 days, that means that the third month will begin on the fourth day of the week. And when it does, when you do the count, it'll put the Feast of First Fruits, Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks on the 12th day. If this second month only had 30 days, that means the next day would have to be a Tuesday like it is here. And then when you count this as being the first day, this Tuesday here, or the third day of the week, when you count, you see that the Feast of Pentecost after the seventh Sabbath is the 13th. But the Most High don't deal with 13, as you know, in terms of specific days and dates and of certain things. In particular, you have 12 months of the year, you have 12 tribes, you have the 12 apostles, so much things dealing with 12 that, you know, putting it as the 13th or making the 12th over here on this, on the wrong count below, it wouldn't work out to a scriptural perfection.
That's right.
Let me go on to show again another thing. This is going to, as this is the 12th, that means there's going to be 30 days in this month. The first day of the next month, which would be the fourth month, would have to start on a Friday, right?
That's right.
But if you even did it and you wanted to say this is 30 and you want to do it wrong and have a wrong date of the 13th, it's still going to, the fourth month, no matter what, is still going to start on the sixth day of the week. You see that?
Yes.
So what am I saying there? It is 28, 31, 30, but deduction and knowing a count lets us know that, you know what, we're in the right area, because the fourth month must start on the sixth day of the week when we get there and start to deal with it. And we can see that, well, you could either, you know, don't deal with the what you have up top and deal with the bottom, but it would still work out. But your date would be the 13th, would be called the Feast of Weeks, and it doesn't jive. Most people in the world will call the Feast of Pentecost is on the 6th of the third month, or some people have it on the 15th, which I think is many people who use Many people use the Enoch and the Zadok calendar along with GOCC as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I'm just being open here, just that you see, okay, you start to think, because if this was all blank, you would have to fill it in. But now we're utilizing a scriptural count and understanding here. Brother Job, do you want to add anything here, clarify anything, any questions you might have as well?
No questions. I think it's just important that the brother and sister are carefully following along and making sure that they understand what we're showing up to this point.
Mm-hmm. So no matter what, the fourth month would start on the sixth day of the week, which it's supposed to. But if you wanted to say the second month didn't have 31 days and 30 instead, doesn't even matter. It's still going to work out. The only thing is your date would be inaccurate. The 12th is the Feast of First Fruits, not the 13th. Okay, so again, utilizing our 7-day weekly cycle, we did a bib, got to the 28th. Then we know that Ziph starts on the first day of the week because the 15th is on the first day of the week, and we can just count backwards. And we're going through when we count to 31 for the second month. Savan starts on the fourth day of the week. And now let's go to this count and confirm things more. What we're going to do now, again, I'm not finished confirming how long these months are. We've got to use the Feast of Weeks to determine and solidify this count here. So let's do that.
Leviticus 23, verse 15. And you shall count unto you from the morning or morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. Leviticus 25, verse 8. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. And ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land.
All right. So what I'm showing here basically is just look at the count that is similar for the count to the Feast of Weeks, the day of Pentecost, Feast of First Fruits, and also the count dealing with the 50th year Jubilee. They're one and the same, right? Right. I'm going to show you that they're one and the same. But here's what I want to focus on. You shall count from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the wave sheaf offering, 7 Sabbaths. All right. So going back again, this is the wave sheaf offering. Remember, we have 7 days. The first day is holy. The 7th day is holy. Then in sequential order, going to from verses 8 through to 16, you have the waving of the sheep, which is the morrow after the Sabbath. Right here, the morrow after the Sabbath. So now we're going to begin our count. Sabbath 1, right? And this count, when you look at it, is just like the Jubilee year count. Look at it, says 7 days in the week or 7 years, right? It starts on the first day of the week when you count 7 Sabbaths or 7 Sabbaths of years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After that 49th year, because 7 times 7 is 49, so you have that 49th day or the 49th year. The year after that or the day after that for the Feast of First Fruits is the 50th day. That has to occur on the first day of the week again, just like where it started over here.
That's
You
right.
count in 1, 7 Sabbaths, and then you get the 50th day. So from understanding this, what you have to know, this is a very important foundation, is that the Feast of Weeks, or Feast of First Fruits, as we're going to call it, or Pentecost, has to be on the first day of the week. It can't be on any other day of the week.
That's right.
And if you start the waving of the sheaf on any other day of the week other than the first day of the week, you would never be able to have the waving of the Feast of First Fruits on the day of the week. They go hand in hand. I just need you to see this. The sheaf has to start here. The count has to start here in order for this. You have the 7 Sabbaths, because there has to be 7 full Sabbaths. And then the 50th day is going to be on the first day of the week. But the Javed,
right.
you want to add anything here?
That's right. No, and the only way to see it is putting these numbers on the table and seeing it with your own eyes, how it has to be on the first day of the week. It can't be any other day.
So let's look at this again now on a cross chart here. Remember, Abib, the first month, we studied it on creation, the first 7 days of creation. We got to the 14th. We have the first day of Passover is holy. The seventh day of Passover is holy. Then we have the morrow after that Sabbath is the waving of the sheaf. This is when you begin to count 50 days or 7 Sabbaths. So when we do this count, we're counting, we're going, here's 1 Sabbath. Here's 2 Sabbaths. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this day here, this 11th of the 3rd month is day 49. You understand? Day 49. When you count from here, this is day 1 of that 50-day count. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49 will be here. That's all the weeks, 49 days. The morrow after the 7th Sabbath is the first day of the week. That's going to be the day of Pentecost, first fruits. It could only work like this. You can't have the Passover beginning on any other day of the week outside of the 15th. It has to be the first day of the week in order for the 7th day of the week to be the 7th day of Passover, in order for the waving of the sheaf to be the morrow after the Sabbath. What you're going to see is when you do this research and go to other people who calculate, the festival of Feast of Weeks, they do all kind of strange things, especially if their Passover doesn't start on the first day of the week, because sometimes it does, because their things wander. But when it doesn't, it just messes up the whole count. They'll even say the morrow after the Sabbath. Say this is the 7th day of Passover, like the 19th, for example. They'll wait 2-3 days to say, okay, this is the waving of the sheaf. And they won't say the morning after the morrow after the Sabbath. They won't begin to count. And it's weird because the scriptural command, it's a command, is to count and to number these things.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about observation. And if you don't count it properly, you're not going to get the right day or date. And this is what's happened to the world. They want to observe things, and so you're going to get different days and dates wandering throughout the years. But this is the perfect, notice the weekly cycle moving perfect. Notice that again, the 12th Pentecost, not the 13th. If this was 30 days, we did all of that. These are what you would call, these are the weeks of harvest. This is the latter rain season, just before summer. All of this year, again, perfect harmony with Jah's almanac. Scripture.
Deuteronomy 16, verse 8. 6 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to Jah thy El. Verse 9. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto Jah thy El with a tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand.
Okay, now let's take a look at here some more stuff to really put together, how you have to really read, very keenly when you read. All right, so we see 6 days, eat unleavened bread, the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly. Now you notice again, it says the 7th day. This 6 days is talking about the beginning of the week. Remember, if you don't keep the Passover the way we keep it, people are just going to say, well, it could start this year. Most people say that the Passover when the Messiah was on the earth was on a Wednesday because, they're trying to count when the Messiah was seen and all of this and that. So most people agree with the Wednesday. And if you use the book of Enoch, you would have an agreement with it. But again, we've already proven where you're supposed to count the weekly cycle from. But notice it says the 7th day. Verse 9 says 7 weeks you begin to number as you begin to put the sickle to the wheat, to the corn. Right? So when do you do that? Well, we had a command when we did that, and that's the waving of the sheaf. And this
That's
is
right.
how it works out perfectly, because some people, when they don't put the verses together, they're like, oh, whenever you decide to do the sickle, then you can count from there. But it has to be 7 weeks. And then you have to keep what is called the Feast of Weeks. It's a special day and date that we learn about. All right, let's look at this. When do you put the sickle to the corn?
Leviticus 23, verse 15. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the seventh Sabbath shall you number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto Jah. Numbers 28, verse 26. Also, in the day of the first fruits, when ye bring a new meat offering unto Jah, after your weeks be out, ye shall have a holy convocation, ye shall do no servile work.
Okay, so look at this. We see from the time from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the wheat. Well, we have it right here. It says from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. In order to do that, you have to get the sickle and cut the sheaf to bring it to the priest at that exact time period. It has to be the morrow. It has to be the morrow after the Sabbath. Notice up here when it says in Deuteronomy, again, we're going back and forth. We have on the seventh day, that's that Sabbath. That seventh day here is that Sabbath. The morrow after the Sabbath day is when you begin to number the 7 weeks.
That's right.
The morrow after the Sabbath, you begin to number the 7 weeks. That Sabbath is the 7th day of Passover, which is also the 7th-day Sabbath, because this is called the Feast of Weeks.
That's
Not
right.
called the Feast of just 50 days arbitrarily. You have to count your weeks properly. You notice again how 7 is prominent in all things. Other calendars are not utilizing it this way. Zadok, Enoch, or whatever, they're going to splice things. And it won't work this way. And again, I mean, people can disagree or not have a hard time seeing it, but all I know is that we're going really slow through the scriptures and at least giving people things to consider. And if, again, I know people might not catch things right away, but this is definitely things to consider, because I know that you're not taught this way about the festivals. They're telling you to look up at the sky. And when it comes to the book of Enoch, again, doing the midweek thing where they're disrupting the weekly cycle. You can't have the Feast of Weeks on their calendar, although they do it, but they have to twist up things and bend up things and change things around. That's what they have to do. Count your days. Jenny says, "Good day. New to the channel, to know the topic. I know what day is the first day of the year. The first day. Okay, what would be on the first day of the week? Yes. So the question is, may I know what day is the first day of the year? Yep, the Abib. The foundation of the feast and Sabbath depends on Abib, right? All right. So now some people, I'm going to be here for a quick second. Some people, when it says the Abib, people considering that the barley is called Abib, and they try to translate the word Abib from your Strongs and say it means green ears of barley. But Abib has the first word Ab in it, which means father or chief or head. It has nothing to do with green ears of barley. When you look up the word green, it's nothing to do with a bib. You look up the word barley, it has nothing to do with a bib. But they do this weird translation to say you have to go look for a bib. You don't look for a bib. The Most High, when he said, this is the beginning of months, this is the first month of the year unto you, he didn't tell them to look up at the sky. He didn't bring to them any of the barley or anything. He gave them a count. So when we count our count, the beginning of the year always is on the first day of the week, just like creation. And I would encourage you to watch the first maybe hour or so of this channel, because we really came from that foundation, which is, if you don't see where we count the first day of creation from, which is the first day of the month, the first day of the first week, then it'll be hard to understand where we're going from here.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for your inquiry, and I hear what you're saying. But here we can see again, this count is a perfect count. So let's look at it at our weekly cycle again. Abib beginning on the first day of the weekly cycle. We get to 15 to 21. We know that's the 7th day of Passover. The morrow after that Sabbath, that 7th day, is the day of the waving of the sheaf, because it's the morrow after the Sabbath, so it has to be the first day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Because the day after the Sabbath is the first day of the week.
That's right.
So we have the first day of the week. Now we're beginning our count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, we got our first Sabbath, which is the 28th of Abib. But then all the brown is a count. Then you have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Then you have the 7th Sabbath. And the morrow after the 7th Sabbath is the 50th day, which again equals to the 12th of the third month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. Yep. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to see how these things pan out. But this is how you would look at it. The counting the waving of the sheaf, the 50 days. It's called the Feast of Weeks, right?
That's right.
You're counting Sabbaths. So you can't start the waving of the sheaf on any other day of the week except the first day of the week to make it match. Because then if you started the waving of the sheaf on the second day of the week, it's not the morrow after the Sabbath.
That's right.
And it's not even tomorrow. Even if you try to make your Passover, if your Passover starts on any day of the week, then so everything goes wrong. The Passover must begin on the first day of the week, always and forever. The waving of the sheaf has to be on the first day of the week, which is going to lead you to the Feast of First Fruits also being on the first day of the week. All perfect for the first coming festivals, spring festivals of the Messiah. Whew. Okay. Let's continue. Again, this is all that we just showed, right? What time is it? Okay, 15 minutes. Well, we definitely know we're not going to know 12 months of the year, but our slowing down has been good. So again, let's remember the recap. Abib, the first day of creation. Genesis chapter 1, verses 5 is the first day of creation. The first Sabbath was the first Sabbath of the year, the first Sabbath of the month, which is the 7th day of Abib, because Abib is the first month of the scriptural year, 7th. Then we just do our count. 8, 9, 14. And you can see there's all kind of scriptures. Anywhere you see a scripture, it's going to talk about this day, this particular day, date on the scriptural almanac. We have the Passover being on the first day of the week, going to the 7th day. If you don't know, when we teach about the Messiah being in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights, of which he was, but he wasn't first seen until the waving of the sheaf. I'm just putting that out there, but I already have a lesson on it. That's a big lesson in itself, which also helps to solidify this understanding. So the last day of Abib is on a Sabbath, as we've been showing. That means the first day of Ziph, the second month, is going to be on the first day of the week. We're still counting our Sabbaths. We have our mid-spring, or the first day of the beginning of the giving of the manna, or also the Passover in the second month, as well as the first day that the Most High reigned, the rain during the time of Noah's flood. Then we do our count, and we've gotten through the 6th Sabbath, the 7th Sabbath. Then we have the Feast of First Fruits. Now, when we teach about the Feast of First Fruits, we also teach that that's the Feast of Weeks, that's the day that the Messiah was born. You see, the Messiah was born during lambing season. And that's why we have here Joshua, the Messiah, was born in lambing season on the day of first fruits, because the shepherds were out watching their flock. And during lambing season is the time where you have to watch the sheep greatly, because lambing means that's when the ewes, they're called EWE, the ewes, the female sheep, are having their lambs. And, first of all, sheep are not very good at defense, being defensive, but much less when they're in their pregnancy. Shepherds have to be very attuned to their sheep during the nighttime to help with any troubled births, and also to keep away predators and stuff from entering into the flock. And animals coming to eat your flock is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers and sisters, Brother Javid, quickly, they went, down to the farm by Lance, and Lance had to hire, trying to hire some people to come kill out the coyotes and stuff that are eating his cattle,
Yeah.
Now,
Wow.
he doesn't have any sheep, but he has those big cattle, so they're eating out not the big ones, but they're trying to get to the babies. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So again, just that kind of that idea. So this is why we teach at the Messiah the first festivals, Passover, the waving of the sheaf, and the Feast of Weeks represent the Messiah's first coming, as we teach greatly. And then the fall festivals, which people are in now, that represents the second coming. So people try to say the Messiah was born during the Feast of Tabernacles. That's inaccurate. He wasn't at all. He was born during the spring lambing season, and of course, not Christmas, right? We don't know that already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any comments or questions here before we go any further? Anything you want to add here, Brother Javid? See what we got next. Okay, yeah, just
Oh,
taking a look
I
at
just
it.
hope it's been clear for the brethren and sistren up until this point.
You can keep talking. This is how the first 3 months of the scriptural almanac go. Again, when I put Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for those individuals who are going to say, he's using the Gregorian or Julian calendar. No, I'm not. I just didn't want to put the numbers 1 to 7 up top because it was going to mess up the understanding because I've already used a lot of numbers. But
Yes.
as we know, Sunday is equivalent to the first day of the scripture almanac. Howbeit, I want to remind everybody the days start the evening before. So Saturday night, like what's coming up in a few minutes, tonight is the beginning of the first day of the week, although it's not Sunday yet, but it'll be Sunday in about 5-6 hours.
Right.
And then for most of Sunday, it's going to be the first day of the week.
Yes.
Again, taking a look here. And remember, we talked about if Ziph only had 30 days and Savan had 31, that would make the date the 13th instead of the 12th. But no matter what, the 4th month would still start on the 6th day of the week. Okay. Let's see how much time I got here. So we're going to try to get to month 6. Let's do this, all right?
All right.
A few more minutes. All right. So we've covered, what am I looking at here? Yep, the first 3 months, then months 4, 5, and 6. So because we proved the first 3 months, we're talking about that the 4th month has to begin on the 2nd day of the week, 6th day of the week, pardon me, Friday. We can see here that the 4th month, it does begin on the 6th day of the week. Now you can say maybe this month has 30 days or 31 days. It does have 31. The 5th month, Dan, has 30. The 6th month, Elul, has 31. So you can see kind of like a pattern. It goes from 28 to 31 to 30 to 31, alternating to 30 to 31 for the first half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at this first half of the year, one thing you can see is that, remember we were teaching that the 7th month is the only month that begins on the 7th day of the week? We said that many times and showed it. Well, again, look at how the 6th month ends on the 6th day of the week, which is going to gives you kind of an idea that the 7th month has to start right here on the 7th day of the week. But let's prove these things quickly. Again, this is just another way to look at the 4th, 5th, and 6th months. We have spring, and then we have summer. We're going to prove that Judah, the 4th month, has 31 days. It starts on the 6th day of the week. Dan has 30 days, or the 5th month has 30 days, starts on the 2nd day of the week. Elul, the 6th month, has 31 days and starts on the 4th day of the week. All right. So let's see what we got here to talk about. This is the 4th month, starting the beginning summer on the 6th day of the week, and it has 31 days. Let's go to some scripture thing. This is the 5th month. All right, here we go.
Haggai, chapter 1, verse 14. And Jah stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people. And they came and did the work in the house of Jah of hosts, their El. In the 24th day of the 6th month, in the 2nd year of Darius the king. Nehemiah 6, verse 15. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul, in 52 days.
Okay. Now let's take a look at these verses and analyze them. We see that we have here, it's the 24th day of the
6th month.
6th month, the 24th. And they did some work, right? So you notice that they did some work here. And then it says the day after it, the 25th day of the month Elul. Elul is the sixth month.
6 month.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that Elul is the 6th month. It's the 25th month. It was finished. You understand? Everything was finished. So they finished off the work on the 24th, and on the 25th it was finished. So when we look at the 6th month and how it's patterned out, again, when we look at it, so let's do this. Go back here. We're at the 4th month. Remember the 4th month at the sun, the 6th day of the week. We're going through. The 4th month has 31 days. Here we have Haggai 1:15. We just read that. The 24th, they did work. And it says on the 25th, it was finished, right?
That's right.
The wall was finished. So they did some work at the beginning of this day here. And then when the day was over, it was finished on the 25th day. That's what it says here. Right? It was finished on that Sabbath. Now, what I'm saying here is that this takes a little bit of thinking. That 24th, we see that they did work. So we know that it wouldn't have been the 7th-day Sabbath at all.
Right.
And because it's at the 24th area here, it's very, we have to work it out. So we have the 24th, right? It was finished on the 25th day. Here's the 24th, and here's the 25th. Now, once we start counting backwards or forwards in this, it's going to help us out. But what we're going to do is we're going to count forward first. Because if we go from the 24th, and that is the 6th day of the week, and the 25th is the 7th, then this is going to let us know that just by counting 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Now remember, the 7th month it's an anchor. It's important that it has to fall on the 7th day of the week.
Right.
If Elul only had 30 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means the 7th month would be starting on the 6th day of the week, and that can't work because the 6th month has to fall on the 7th day of the week. So this 24th is very important that it's the 6th day of the week.
Yes.
Because if it was the 25th, then we'd have 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. And then that would make, this would be 31. And again, the 7th month can't start on the 6th day of the week. It has to start on the 7th day of the week.
That's right.
As we're just doing this understanding, we're getting an idea that the 24th has to be the 6th day of the week in order for the 7th month to start on the 7th day of the week. Now, if the 24th is the 6th day of the week, okay, what we're going to do is then we just count backwards for a little bit. 23, 22, 21, 2019. You get what I'm trying to say? If this box was empty from the 24th, you're going to plug in 23, 22, 21, 19, 18, 17, 6, and go all the way through until it carries you back to the first day of that month. The first day of that month is going to be on the 4th day of the week. If it's on the 4th day of the week, that's going to let you know that this month, the 5th month, has to end on the 3rd day of the week. Because this can't start on the 4th day of the week if this month doesn't start on the 3rd day of the week. And this can't be the 4th day of the month, the 4th day of the week, if the 24th isn't the 6th day of the week. Because we know it's not a Sabbath. Because that's when they began and it ended on the Sabbath. Making sense?
Yes.
So you always have to kind of count backwards. So remember, we know for a fact that Judah has to start on the 6th day of the week because we did the count of the first 3 months. And that means let's go to this. So here's the true count up top, and here's the count that maybe, hey, how come maybe it can't be this? So we know that there's 31 days in this month. But if you said that there was only 30 days in the month, let's say, then we go down here, we say, okay, look it. We know that Judah has to start on the 6th day of the week. But if it was only 30 days of the month, okay, fine. It will end on the 7th day Sabbath. That means the next month would have to fall on the beginning, the first day of the week. And if that has now, because we're alternating, it has 31 days, then that 31 days is going to end on the 3rd day of the week, which would make the sixth month start on the 4th day of the week. And if it started on the 4th day of the week, then it would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you'd have going to the 21st, 24th, 25th. And if this month only had 30 days, because remember we were going 30, 31, then this would be 30. Then that would make the first day of the month Elul, the seventh month, be on the sixth day of the week. So this month here has to be 31 days in order for Elul to start on the first day of the week, and this month has to be 31 days. Has to be 30 days. What I'm trying to say is, going up top, this is why it's so confusing talking about this, but I'm glad we're here. It has to be 31 days so that the fifth month starts on the second day of the week and has 30 days and ends on the third day of the week, in order for the fourth month to start on the sixth month to start on the fourth day of the week and have 31 days, so the seventh month starts. But if we do it this way, 30, 31, and 30, we're not going to have the seventh month starting. And if you made this 31, it's almost like 30, 31, and 31. That's not how the alternating goes, keeping everything in line.
That's right.
Hard area to be in here, but it really makes complete sense once you know that the seventh month has to start on the seventh day of the week.
That's right.
So I'm ending it kind of here in this area. The falsehood is up top, because if it was like 31 and 30, then the seventh month right here would have to start on the sixth day of the week, but it has to start on the seventh day of the week. You see right here? This is
That's
the seventh
right.
month. It has to
Yes.
start on this day of the week, the seventh, due to Leviticus and how Jah's almanac is set up. So this is why these 30, 31 days months can't work. It has to be 31, 30, 31 in order for this 31 for the sixth month to end on the sixth day of the week, so the seventh month can start on the seventh day of the week.
That's right.
So this is how it is. Judah, the fourth month starts on the second day of the week, goes all so far on here, as you can see, what we've just showed. The sixth month ends on the sixth day of the week. The sixth month ends on the sixth day of the week. The seventh month starts on the seventh day of the week. Kind of a little easy thing to remember there. Looking at it fully, this is months 4, 5, and 6, Judah, Dan, and Elul. Again, the fourth month starting on this. It's the same thing that we're just showing, the same thing. Again, leaving that seventh day of the week for the seventh month to start on that seventh day of the week. And I'm going to stop here just so we can get to that the rest of the half of the year later on. But this is where we're at so far. We've proven the first, second, and third, the fourth, fifth, and sixth, and then later, next Sabbath, Jah willing, we're going to prove the seventh, eighth, and ninth. But we know that the seventh month is the only month that starts on the seventh day of the week. It's an anchor. And this anchor helps us to understand the rest of the months and how long they are. All we got to do is plug in a number, a day, and a date, and then start counting from there.
That's right.
All right. So what we've covered is this month, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And next Sabbath, we will get to the seventh month. Praise Jah. Wow.
Praise Jah.
Always hard topic to break down, but that's probably the slowest we're going to get it for now. And like I said, people can disagree, but once you know these things, it becomes second nature. Just like anything, you have to study it, right?
That's right. That's right.
And again, just want to remind ourselves, the year always begins on the first day of the week, always ends on the seventh day of the week, and the seventh month always begins on the seventh. These are our anchors. Once you know this, and this, everything else falls into line, believe it or not. And this is what we've been showing here.
True.
All right. That's it. Praise Jah.
All right. Praise Jah.
Praise Jah and Jehoshua for dying for our sins. Let me find my Praise Jah chart. We are. Yeah, man.